What if a little operation in Russian Kursk could affect the Russo-Ukrainian war? Ukraine launched a daring invasion in August 2024, which many assumed would be brief. As the situation develops, this decision could have major consequences. Strategists thought the goal was to stretch Putin's forces, but the outcome was unexpected. Stay tuned as we reveal the unforeseen twists of this crucial conflict moment. Ukrainian bold offensive. Ukraine occupied 1,295 square kilometers of Russian land in a few weeks, more than Russia had done all year. Keep watching. We'll discuss this numerous consequences later. More importantly, recent comments with Ukrainian President Zelensky indicate that Ukraine will occupy the land indefinitely. That doesn't imply they'll force Russia to relinquish Kursk to Ukraine afterward. Kursk is a long-term thorn in Russia's plans. Thus, Ukraine will have its occupying forces ready to protect and govern the area throughout the war, keeping the US, the main Ukrainian supporter, in the dark about the Kursk invasion is apparent. Washington's Joe Biden administration opposed Ukraine's forward-thinking initiatives. Zelensky said that not all Ukrainian secret services knew about the daring Kursk invasion plot. Zelensky believes that limiting the number of persons who knew about this operation helped it succeed. This was likely planned too. Looking back, the Kursk invasion's success has a clear cause. Putin didn't send more forces to defend it, but his reasoning reveals more about Russia's potential to prolong this war than at first look. Here's how Ukraine invading and keeping Kursk will affect the rest of the Russo-Ukrainian war. We'll begin with Kursk and its impact on the war. Russia has invested heavily in pile-driving into eastern Ukraine by late July 2024. Putin made a big mistake. After the Ukrainians defended the territory, he attacked Kharkiv again. The attack's breadth was unclear. Russia relies on resources. Russian soldiers began modest incursions into Kharkiv in mid-May 2024, starting the summer campaign. It wasn't the bizarre part. Russia's tactics erased any advantage. Russia had one advantage over 30 months of the conflict that helped it advance: resource advantage. This took numerous forms. Russia has one of the world's most well-equipped military, ranking in the top 3 by number of vehicles and airplanes. It was soon evident that the major Russian tanks, T-72, T-80s, and T-90s, were no match for the US's M1 Abrams. After all 3 T-tanks had a similar but severe design weakness that let Ukraine turn the battle into trench, mine, and drone warfare. The above tanks have automatic reloading systems that store spare ammo below the turret. Battle armor provides little protection for the ammunition container. Since Ukraine had several T-72, which were Soviet designs and inherited after the Union collapsed, the Ukrainian army rapidly recognized that a mine or bomb might puncture the housing and destroy the armor. Even yet, Russian tanks had a huge field edge. Ukraine has gotten fewer sophisticated tanks from the US and Europe than expected. Russia was the only side that could make replacement parts for Soviet-era machinery, which both sides used. Putin said the military complex could deliver 1,500 tanks in 2023 due to Russia's advanced manufacturing and industry. If the Russian army used all those tanks, Ukraine had plenty to worry about, even if most were reconditioned Soviet-era vehicles. But Russia didn't. Strategic mistakes ruined the July invasion. Russia tried to conquer Kharkiv using infantry rather than tanks. Ukrainian forces reported that some methods involved getting soldiers on motorbikes to escape Ukrainian fire and reach the lines following the summer invasion. The main armored vehicles were turtle tanks, slow but well reinforced, and solely soaked up the fire for the troops. The northern front was rapidly revealed to be a distraction for the eastern Ukraine campaign. In conclusion, Russia did not endeavor to attack Kharkiv more technologically or mechanically. Manpower. The idea was to move as many Ukrainian defenders from the east to the north, so Donetsk might fall undefended. Russia's manpower superiority made this concept appealing on paper. The Russian military has around 3 million staff and 3 million troops by 2023. Russia's big mercenary groups and vigorous conscription, which brought in 35,000 new soldiers per month, contributed to this. Russia has around double the population of Ukraine, so it can draw from twice as many people for its military. Russian troops appeared outmatched on the northern front, and one key reason was apparent. Russia churned out experienced workers. Around 3,000 Russian forces were approaching Ukraine when the war began. All stories indicate that they were well-trained army personnel. Although Russia withdrew from northern Ukraine in 2022, Ukraine repelled the original attack. Next came a meat grinder. By early 2024, some 45,000 to 5,000 Russians had died or been severely injured. Given the earlier 3,000 number, this may contain a considerable number of experienced individuals. Thus, Russia presumably relied on recruits for its less important tasks. The 2024 Kharkiv summer invasion appears to follow that pattern. In May and June, Ukrainska Pravda reported that Russia lost 1,000 to 1,200 soldiers daily, total losses on all fronts. The summer invasion cost Russia around 7,000 men. Ukraine presumably realized by July's end that Russia's northern area was under-equipped and under-trained. The Kursk invasion nearly proved it. The Kursk invasion began with 301,000 men crossing the border and heading to lightly protected villages and towns in southwestern Kursk. Early reports were conflicting since Ukraine withheld official information for the first few days of the incursion. The Russian Ministry of Defense began with reports that Ukrainian soldiers were easily repelled and that Kursk was safe. That quickly proved false. Number of prisoners. The Kursk invasion saw Ukrainian troops advance into Russian-populated territory and Russian soldiers surrender. Kyiv's commander-in-chief, General Alexander Syrsky, reported find 4 prisoners of war. These troops can help Ukraine strengthen its prisoner exchange strategy, which exchanged 230 men by August 24th. The Ukrainian jails holding these Russian soldiers say 80% of the 300 first detainees are fresh recruits. This proves Ukraine's gambit was brilliant. Kursk was defended by an untrained force without the equipment to withstand Ukrainian fire and tactics. Ukraine has bombed bridges and other infrastructure that connect southern Kursk to Russia in fresh offensive operations. This would allow Ukraine to solidify its Kursk advantages and expand into Russia's borders for leverage. Ukraine has been more moral in its war and invasion than Russia has in the past 30 months. Approximately 2,000 individuals were displaced by the Ukrainian occupation. To Ukraine's credit, the army has worked with foreign humanitarian organizations to speed up civilian relief. Few civilian infrastructures have been destroyed by military tactics. New Ukraine move. Russia, meanwhile, has been accused of violating international humanitarian law by bombing hospitals and civilian facilities. The difference between Russia invading Ukraine and Ukraine invading Russia back favored Ukraine. This would likely encourage Ukraine's main ally, NATO, to provide further aid. Russia has resisted Ukrainian attempts to expand into its territory since the Kursk assault. Russia hasn't succeeded in driving out the troops yet. A month later, Ukraine still holds the territory it gained, and it doesn't seem likely to relinquish it. How can invading and keeping Kursk help Ukraine? We mentioned the first region: attention and financing. In the 30 months of conflict, Ukraine has defended itself from Russia. It planned a counter-offensive and liberation of Russian-controlled territories. Ukraine publicly wanted to repel Russia, and Russia was ready. Many analysts believed Ukraine's efforts were in vain in August 2023, since it was losing more than it got. According to Zelensky, the Kursk incursion was designed to counter Ukraine's behavior over the preceding 2 years. Ukraine may create an opening if Russia didn't expect a counter-invasion. Indeed, that happened. The Kursk invasion strengthened Ukraine militarily and geopolitically. Less than a week into the invasion, the US will deliver Ukraine another $125 million in military equipment and ammunition. It appeared that the Biden administration supported Ukraine's stronger proposal. Ukraine needs all the aid it can receive. Russia has been vociferous about evicting Ukraine, but its efforts have focused on Donetsk. Russia sent more troops east while Ukraine secured recruits in the north. The 60,000-person city of Pokrovsk has been the main focus for the past month. The city is at the intersection of several important east and central Ukrainian routes. Pokrovsk is essential to Ukrainian military supply infrastructure as Russia invades from the east. Putin called the Ukrainian Kursk offensive a mistake. Ukraine could not reinforce its eastern front because it dispatched more experienced forces and superior military equipment to Kursk. Russia seemed to have profited by moving 8 kilometers from Pokrovsk. To keep pressure on the eastern front, Russia hasn't sent an overwhelming force to liberate Kursk. Shifting troops between fronts leaves one vulnerable to fall and decide the outcome, so both sides are playing chicken. The Kursk assault also changed another facet of the Russo-Ukrainian war. It may be why Zelensky insists on maintaining the captured land under Ukrainian control until the war ends. Nuclear threats from Russia. Russia has effectively blocked NATO's efforts to arm Ukraine with advanced military weaponry, citing nuclear threats as a reason. Russia's 2020 military policy states that nuclear weapons are key to preventing military escalation and must be used at Russia's discretion. This stance contributed to a 15-month halt in U.S. aid to Ukraine. Despite this, Ukraine's ability to hold captured territory, specifically in Kursk, has undermined Russia's nuclear threats. By occupying 1,295 square kilometers of Russian land, Ukraine demonstrated that Russia's threats were empty. This forced Russia to fortify key areas, like roads and power stations. But these trenches gave Ukraine the opportunity to fortify against Russian attacks. Ukraine's control over Kursk shifted the momentum, limiting Russia's ability to make progress elsewhere, including near Pokrovsk. The occupation of Kursk disrupted Russia's plans and changed its morale. Before August, Russia was on the offensive, but the conscription of poorer regions meant those in Moscow and other major cities were less affected. Ukraine's successful attacks, including the August 21st drone strike on Moscow, marked a shift in dynamics. Although Russia's defenses shot down 11 drones, the precedent has been set. Ukraine now can target deeper into Russia, further destabilizing the situation with missiles, long-range capabilities, and drones. The stakes are bigger than ever as Russia struggles to maintain its military effort. Can Ukraine hold Kursk, and will Russia accept peace negotiations in November? We want to hear your feedback. Thank you for watching. And if you liked this video, subscribe for more updates and insights. Check out our daily analysis of the Ukrainian invasion of Russia, or watch another interesting video.